Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here in our session. Today, we will be comparing two models of education. One is a digital learning across a curriculum model, and the other one is a blended learning model. My name is Espinoza, and I'm representing Santa Clara University. Let's go ahead and get started. Digital learning. Digital learning is any instructional practice that effectively uses technology to strengthen the student's learning experience. It emphasizes high quality instruction and provides access to challenging content, feedback through formative assessment, opportunities for learning anytime and anywhere, and individualized instruction to ensure all students reach their full potential to succeed in college and career. This is the definition that Eric Scheninger uses in his book on common learning, creating schools that work for the kids. Some examples of how digital learning is applied across the curriculum by many of our amazing teachers are the following. You can also replicate these activities with your students in your specific classrooms. So, for example, have your students create a visual presentation using the software of their choice, whether it is PowerPoint, Powtoons, EduCreations, Keynote. We gotta make sure that we're encouraging them to apply their creativity and use the software that they feel the most comfortable with. You can also have students use an EduCreations or a Powtoon to teach each other about the advantages of the dangers of pollution, for example. Or you can work with them in a presentation about rules on campus, or Mother's Day, or Father's Day, or just anything. You can apply the Powtoons, EduCreations, or one of the previously mentioned visual presentation softwares. You can also conduct a virtual tour of the Amazon forest or a virtual tour of the Smithsonian Museum. These are just some ways that you can use technology and integrate it into your uh, um, everyday classroom. Another idea that some of our teachers had is they decided to host a Skype speaker in their classroom. So they have a couple of speakers that unfortunately cannot come to our school because they live in another state, but they're able to connect to them using Skype. Students are able to ask questions, interact with the speaker without the high cost of bringing in a speaker to your school. Another great idea that a lot of our students are using now is that they've created Google Share Drives to share with their students several things: articles, vocabulary words, lesson plans. This is accessible by both students and parents. Okay, now we'll be moving on to learn a little bit more about blended learning. So blended learning is any formal educational program in which a student learns, at least in part, through online learning with some element of student control over time, place, path, and or pace. There are four main models of blended learning. One is the rotation model, which we'll focus on in a little bit, the flex model, the a la carte model, and the enriched virtual model. So just for the sake of time, let's focus on the rotation model. So the rotation model is broken down into four subsets, one being the station rotation, which the station rotation is a method that offers teachers like yourselves, like I, a lot of flexibility. It's students rotating through a variety of learning stations, ranging from group discussions, online learning, and everything in between. We are able to dictate the schedules of the rotations, and we can base it off the time that we have with the students or the need that each student has. This next model, the lab rotation model, is something that we've probably, or you've probably done yourselves. It just probably wasn't called a lab rotation model. But this is technically when you take your students out of your regular classroom and go to a section in the computer lab that the school provides. This model requires the students physically change rooms between activities, which it is defined by you. In the flipped classroom model, students learn face to face with an educator in a brick and mortar setting, so in a physical setting, and then they're assigned extra work to take home. In a lot of cases, students are given the lectures to be looked at or reviewed at home, and then when they come to the school, the students can work on hands-on projects, ask questions to the teacher, evaluate each other, and so on. Finally, individual rotation is a little bit more difficult to apply Given that the individual student motions through a variety of activities and stations defined at the teacher's discretion. So this is all based by using test scores, lab scores, and then the teacher defines the student's curriculum. It's all individualized. It is important to note that the student may not necessarily rotate or switch to each available station or activity, only those that you decide to list on their individual curriculum path. Okay, now that we have the basics for what the digital learning and blended learning mean, we can go ahead and move on to the differences and similarities of these two models. So for digital learning is the integration of technology in everyday classroom lessons. It is also the traditional teacher-led instruction with technological enhancements, such as using a Promethean board or using computers to do work, maybe pulling up the iPads to do some research. And in essence, it just means having the tools that may enhance the brick and mortar learning experiences. In the case of blended learning is when a student has control over the time, place, path, and or pace of their education. This is a shift from face-to-face teacher to web-based content and instruction, at least part-time. And also, I must mention that blended learning seems to be cost-efficient for a lot of schools, especially some of the models such as the flex model, because schools are able to hire less teachers and invest more in their online platforms. So, what are the similarities between digital learning and blended learning? So, first off, in order to apply either of these two models, a student needs to have access to technology. It is very important for students to have access to technology either at home and at school, or being provided with the tools, supplemental devices that they can take home, or supplemental devices that they can use at school. Also, we cannot expect our teachers to understand or to apply the either of these models right off the bat. We need to make sure that we're providing professional development for our teachers. So that means that we need to start planning ahead of time. We need to make sure that they have the time off that they need to take be a part of different professional development opportunities that will help them cope with the change that is coming. Also, we need to ensure that the culture is created at our school. From our para educators to our teachers to our parents to our students, we need to make sure that they're on board with the decision that we're about to make. Whether it is, getting one-to-one iPads for all of our students, or whether it is offering a couple of classes outside of the school for students to be a part of, maybe after school, maybe during the summer, maybe in the mornings. We need to make sure that the culture is there, and us as principals and teachers, we need to make sure that we're doing our part. Also, we need to make sure that we have, as previously mentioned, the buy-in from the students, teachers, and parents, because they're the decision makers at our school, especially our students. If they're not on board, if we're not asking for their opinion, then that's a huge gap that we need to fix. Finally, the question is, can a classroom have or use both models at once? The answer is yes. Let's take the example of the flipped classroom. So, students go home, the teacher is able to upload the lesson for the next day online. The students are able to look at the lesson, draw up questions, have an idea of what they're going to cover the next day. Um, Takes a couple of hours every night for the students to go over this lesson, come up with their questions, and do some type of assignment. The next day, when they come back to school, the teacher is ready to answer any questions that the students might have. They're able to get into groups and hit the ground running, answering each other questions, doing peer reviews. In addition, they can do all of these other tasks by using some type of technology. Say, for example, they need to come up with a research project and upload it into Google Docs, or they need to use the smartboard to do a project or a presentation, or they need to do a presentation by using Prezi or using Powtoons within the class period. So all of this is incorporating both the flipped classroom model and the digital learning model and making it into one. Well, with that, our presentation concludes. I want to thank you for your time. and your effort. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. And thank you so much. Have an awesome rest of your day.